how you felt the Bahamas was really so important for not only you as a coach, but our players as well.
Well, you know, seeing that this is my first go-around at the college level, it was huge for me. And the fact that we had gathered, you know, some new players on our ball club, it was great for them to get with the guys that decided to stay on board and bond. It gave my staff and I an opportunity to work for 2 months prior to us taking the team to the Bahamas, and I needed that, and I thought our staff, my staff, we needed it as well, because again, we were all new, working with one another as well. So I thought the trip was pretty successful. I really didn't care if we won, but it was nice that we won. I just wanted to make sure that these guys, the 2 months that we had put work in on the floor, they attained something that we were doing that was positive. And I thought the carryover to the Bahamas was great on both ends of the floor. And then just to see our guys for 4 or 5 days bond and hang out and mingle and kind of get to know each other, that was kind of nice to see as well.
Okay, we've got microphones on both sides. We're going to go left, right, and then we would ask that you would pass it to the next person. First question is Tom Brew.
Hello, Mike. Good to see you finally face to face.
Hi, Tom.
The trip, obviously, getting to play a couple games was important, having those practices as well. Do you feel like that at least gives you a pretty good head start as you head in now into getting serious with things every day?
I think so. You know, our guys kind of picked up a lot of things that, you know, I was throwing at them, and that was, for me, very enlightening. You know, it was very nice to see. I mean, because you just don't know. When you take over a ball club and you start throwing things at them, you don't know how quickly they can pick it up. And our guys did that. And the carryover from the time we left Bloomington to the Bahamas was nice. So it gave us a nice little jump on most teams that didn't get that opportunity to do what we did. So as a coach sitting here today, I'm pleased where we are, but knowing that we got a long way to go.
Mike Pegram.
Hey, Coach. Just a couple schedule questions. You're going to start, I think, with 5 of your first games or mid-major schools. Is that more of a philosophy of being a first year in this program and kind of maybe a rebuild, or is this something in the future you might go for bigger schools? And also, did you want to play some close scrimmages to kind of get a little test of nearby schools of note in that regard?
Well, we do have a couple of scrimmages, you know, with Cincinnati, and we have a team that we're going to scrimmage up in Louisville, Kentucky. But again, you know, I don't care who we play. You know, I mean, I want to get this team back on top to the point where we want to be playing the Kentuckys and the UCLAs and the Kansas, the big games. You know, we got St. John's and Syracuse this year, and they're considered big time schools and big time programs. So, I mean, the schedule is what it is, man. I mean, we got to take them one game at a time. I've always felt as a coach, if you're not prepared, you don't come to work, anybody can beat you. So it doesn't matter, you know, who we play. Our schedule is already set. It's what it is. You know, we're just going to try to take it one game at a time and see where we are.
Dustin?
Hey, Mike. You mentioned just that there's some areas where you feel like you're further along. There's some areas you feel like we're a long way to go. I guess just to be more specific about that, where do you feel like you guys made sort of the biggest strides, defense, offense, and where do you feel like you have the furthest way to go, and what does that look like over the next couple of months, next month or so before the opener?
Well, I took over, you know, I expected the defense to be ahead of the offense because I've always coached that way where, you know, I put the defense ahead of the offense because I know defense, if you get a solid foundation and everybody buys in, you give yourself a chance to win ball games. And our defense was ahead of schedule, I thought, about the time we landed in the Bahamas and we started to play. Offensively, we still have a ways to go. I haven't put in a lot of things. I put some of our early offensive things in and some pick and roll plays, but I got a number of set offenses that we gotta put in here in the next month before we open up in November the 9th. So we still got a lot of work to put in though. But defensively, I thought we were ahead of the schedule, and we gotta get more sharper and fine tuned on the offensive end, I think.
Okay, Coach, I have a question from Bob Kravitz, and he wants to know, what have you asked Trace to do this offseason, and how would you rate his progress as a perimeter shooter thus far?
Well, again, we've had quite a few scrimmages leading into the trip to the Bahamas, and he's taken some jump shots, but not a lot. The way we plan, it gets him in the post, it puts him in pick and rolls where he can pop or roll, kind of his choice. But and he's made a few jump shots. It's funny, you asked it the other day in scrimmage. I got on him about not setting screens, and the red team was down 3, and I was so mad at that time that I said, hell, I'm gonna draw the play up for him to shoot the 3, and he popped out and he shot it and he made it. And I didn't let the game go and force the overtime. I called it. I blew the whistle and said practice was over with, everybody in. But I drew it up, and I don't know if most coaches would have done that in that situation, but I just wanted to see how he would respond, and he made the shot. So I know he can make 10, 15-foot jump shots if he just shoots them. And I'm going to keep putting him in situations and forcing his hands to take the shot if he has it. He's making his free throws, which is kind of nice to see too. So he's made a nice jump, I think, from the time we started and where we are today. I thought he played extremely well in the Bahamas.
Kevin?
Yeah, Coach, the point guard position, where you are right now with it, what are your thoughts, evaluation, and what are you going to be looking for in camp in terms of players and minutes and divvying it up?
Well, again, we got 3 point guards in Christian, Xavier, and Rob. And they all been battling. And Christian is starting to step up now, where he was a little behind the 8 ball. I thought Xavier and Rob were kind of leading the way, which I expected. But all 3 have been playing well. I thought Xavier in the game in the Bahamas, the first game, he got in foul trouble early. So that kind of put him behind a little bit. But the second game, he stepped it up and he played like we thought he was capable of playing and leading our ball club. So I feel good about our point guard play. All 3 got to score the ball, I think, for us to be effective. And I'm pushing all 3 in that direction to do that. So,
Jim?
Coach, you talked about the improvements made. You were ahead of the game on defense. Offense was behind a little bit. Defense is usually harder to get a team to come together on. Why do you think that they were able to come together easier on the defensive side? And how much further do you have to go where you'd like for them to be on offense?
well, defensively, I'm a demanding coach, and when you don't do it right, I keep making you do it right until you do it right. And we've kind of assembled a nice defensive system that they kind of understand. Early on, I wouldn't let them switch anything, just made them and held them accountable for guarding their own guy. And I thought that helped us. When we got to the Bahamas, we switched some in the first game, and then we switched a little bit more in the second game, and I thought we were even more effective. But at the end of the day, like I said earlier, I've always coached the defensive side of the ball first, because I know if we can build a good foundation defensively, we'll put ourselves in position every game to be in a game and possibly win the game.
How's the golf game going, by the way?
Terrible.
Go ahead.
Coach, hope you're doing well.
Thank you.
What have you liked so far from both a tangible and intangible perspective from Miller Kopp?
Well, again, I know, we were recruiting him. We recruited him to come here to make shots. But I want more. He's got to defend some too, and, he hadn't been used to switching or getting caught in mismatches where he has to defend. And, he's going to be held accountable, because I've always told players throughout the course of a ball game, you're going to guard someone differently than the guy you started with. That's just the nature of playing basketball. So I try to put our players, along with my staff, in the best position possible to be successful defensively and feel good about it. And, I keep raving, but I'm happy with our defense, but I know we still have a long way to go in terms of the progress of our ball club. We hadn't been together that long, but I'm not making any excuses because, again, at the end of the day, we've shown good signs from the Bahama trip, from the scrimmages that we had prior to us leaving to go to the Bahamas. So there's something to build on and keep pushing.
Zach?
I guess going back to point guard play, especially with the experience you've got there, I guess how much freedom do you allow those guys in terms of maybe letting them take charge on the floor depending on what they see, depending on kind of what they're reacting to, and just kind of maybe every once in a while just sort of say, hey, I'm going to trust you to put us in the right place?
Well, I've given all three of those guys a lot of freedom to play. I've given everybody freedom to play. I've never been a coach that kind of locks a guy in a box and say, hey, you stay in the box. This is the only area you can play in. I think everybody that's been in a uniform this season so far has had the freedom to play. I think any coach would want a point guard or two or three that can just run his team, where I can sit back and don't have to say a damn thing. But that's not the case right now until they actually know me and learn what I'm about. I don't have Jason Kidd and Pablo Prigioni and Raymond Felton and guys like that, that I think were great point guards, but I do have adequate point guards that I think can do the job, and I just got to put them in the best position possible to be successful, to help us win.
Coach, I have a question from Greg Doyle, and he asked you, as you enter practice, do you have a starting five in mind? And I know competition could change that, but what's your first five, or do you have a first five going in?
Well, again, I'm not going to sit here today and tell you what my first five is. I got my thoughts on who I think should start, but that can change. We started out in the Bahamas, Parker and Miller and Big Fella and Race and Xavier. Those were the five that we started with, and I thought they played well, but hell, our second unit played well too. They came in and played extremely well. And Rob was a part of the first game because Xavier got in foul trouble, like I said earlier. So he had to come in and relieve Xavier, and he played well. So my whole thing is, guys, I want 10 guys ready to play. That's going to be important for me. And I got to instill confidence in all 10. And if I got to go beyond that, those guys got to feel good about their chances to play and when they step out on the floor. I don't promise minutes to anybody. I've told them that when I took the job, you got to earn it. But damn it, you better be ready. If it's 3 minutes you play, you better make the most of it because I might not come back that way.
Matt?
Just to the extent that you know at this point, if you don't know, that's okay. guess, what is your team's vaccination rate, and has that been a point of emphasis with maybe a potential of, I know at least in football, if there's a game that you guys missed due to COVID, it's a forfeit. I don't know if there's a basketball rules been announced on that yet, but has vaccinations been a point of emphasis for you guys this fall?
No, I think we're in a good place as far as the vaccines. Everybody's taking them, and we had to have them when we left to go to the Bahamas, and we got checked prior to coming back here to the States. So, I think we're in a good place as far as that's concerned.
Lou?
Coach, what kind of reception have you gotten from fans in the streets since you've been around Bloomington? What do they say to you, and what have they responded to you, things that you said? What do they like that you're saying? How do they react to that?
Well, everything has been positive. I wouldn't expect anything differently. Man, listen, my life has been spent here. You guys seem to think, hey, I've been away for 40 years, and I haven't. Quietly, I've been here every year. You guys just didn't know it. And my walk of life around town and my wife's walk around town has been great, man. People are excited. I'm excited. And, I came back here for one reason and one reason only, man, is to put this team back on top. And I know there's a lot of work that's got to be done. I'm not new to this, but I feel good about where I am and where I sit today. And Bloomington's and the people around town has had a lot to do with that.
Charlie?
Well, Mike, welcome home again, over here to your left, back row. You're right, sorry.
Okay.
So, thanks for sharing that. When you're teaching, how much does Coach Knight's name come up? Stories, concepts. This is how he taught it. Just curious about that.
It comes up off and on, but I tell you what comes up more than anything is the banners that hang in both arenas, practice arena and here right next door. That's what comes up. Shit, every time we step out on the floor, before we break huddle, I tell them to look at those Big Ten titles. Look at the national titles. There's history here, man. We're not here just to play, man. And it's, to me, there's always been a lot at stake here. Even when I played here. So, yes, that's Coach Knight hanging in the rafters. That's all they need to know. And I gotta push them in that direction to make sure that they understand that we're playing to win a Big Ten and a national title and nothing else, man. It's no good thinking any other way.
Jeff?
Coach, how many guys do you feel confident in that can make threes for you? And do you have kind of a ballpark, kind of what percentage you guys need to shoot from distance to really be as successful as you want to be this year?
Well, again, everybody's shooting the three ball, as you know, and that was one of the concerns for us going into the Bahamas and defensively stopping the team that we played in the Bahamas from shooting threes, because that's what they were really good at. And I thought we shot the three ball very adequately, being our first trip out. And, we're going to have to shoot, high 30s, I think, to 40s, to be really effective, I think, offensively. And Miller, I can make them. I got guys that have shown in practice they can make them. And we are shooting a lot of them in practice. We drilling it a lot as far as our free throws as well. So only time will tell, man. We can't live by them. You got to have a mixture. And the beauty about our team is we do have a nice couple of low post guys, three, as a matter of fact, with Race, Trace, and Big Mike, that can demand the ball inside some. So we're going to have to play some inside out, but guys got to be ready to step up and shoot it when they're open. I'm not taking that away from them.
Coach, can you talk a little bit about your coaching staff, how you gelled throughout this process, and what Coach Mata has brought to the table for you as well?
Well, again, Coach Mata sits in a lot of our meetings every day. But, I look at Ya and Kenyon and Armand Hill, who's been around, me a long time. Dane, those guys are new. And, I've been in this situation before when I formed a team in Atlanta, and it was the same way in New York. We got to get to know each other, and they got to know what I'm about. And sometimes I'm not easy, but I try to keep it fun for guys that have dreams of being a head coach. I'll never hold that back, in terms of my approach. My job is to enhance it and help them. And if they think that I can coach and help them, then that's great too. But we've been spending time together just bonding and talking basketball, and I lean on Mata because he's gone through it. He's been in the trenches. And as a NBA head coach, I don't give a shit what level you coach at. No, really. I got the utmost respect for coaches, man, because coaching is hard, until you sit in that seat, you have no idea what it's about. And so, it's been a nice work relationship. If you ask those guys, they think it's a reality show because I try to keep it upbeat, but when it's time to work, it's time to work.
Okay, we're going to finish up with Mike, then George, then Dustin. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, Coach, I want to take you back to this summer. You guys had a reunion down in French Lick, and you stood up and were kind of the face of the program, obviously. What did that mean to you? I mean, did the weight of that whole event really have a heavy bearing on you, finally being the entire face of the program and having everyone looking back at you in that context?
It kind of touched home, man. After sitting up here, accepting the job and going through a few months of, work on the job. It just hadn't set in. But when all the players came back that we brought back, I believe it was about 150 players, it kind of touched home, man, because a lot of those guys had paved the way before I was even thought of. And then, some of the younger guys after me probably looked at me as a guy who paved the way for them. And, so it was one big family reunion, man. And to see everybody back and see the main man who made it all happen sit there and then get up and speak that night was perfect. So, those kind of settings, we can't stop, that's just the beginning of, who I am and what I'm about, because I think ex-players have got to be a part of this ride as well because, they were a big part of it when they played here.
George, then Dustin.
Hi, George.
Hey, Mike. Obviously, you've been a head coach in the pros. You've been an assistant coach in the pros. When you took this job, college coaching's a little bit different. What's been the hardest thing for you to change about yourself and the way you're coaching, or you still coach the same way you did, the way you coached with the Knicks and Atlanta and all the pro teams you coached?
I can't change, man. The only thing that changes is the name and the uniforms. And, I just feel like all players want to be coached. I don't care how you got to be able to touch them, pat them, but you got to be able to challenge them, man, and push them, because especially young players. I've learned that from the time I coached in Atlanta. Young players, they truly think they play hard. And to me, is always another level. Then there's another level. And then when you get to that peak, man, where you playing hard all the time, things come easy for you from a basketball standpoint. And that's the beauty of coaching in terms of trying to get players at that level, because when you do, you win. You know, I mean, that's normally what happens. So, you know, there hasn't been any surprises. You know, I mean, I've got a good group of guys that we've assembled. That's the nice surprise. You know, everybody seems to like one another, and everybody comes to work. So it makes coming to work for me a treat, man. I mean, so I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question, but there was no surprises. I mean, coaching is coaching, man. We just got to get players to buy in and work their asses off and do what's asked of them.
Last question, Dustin.
Race Thompson obviously played most of last year with his back to the basket. He would seem to be the guy that would have to make sort of the biggest change for the offense to work. How have you seen him what is sort of the difference for him in terms of what he's going to be asked to do offensively this year, and how have you seen him sort of take to that role and start developing that direction?
Well, let me just say this. When I took the job, some of the coaches that were here, you know, I'm a great listener. And, you know, I like to pick my coaches, you know, that were here. And I ask about Race. And some of the coaches, well, he can't handle the ball that well, and you probably don't want him handling it. Can't shoot out on the floor, so you probably don't want him. And I just squashed all of that because I don't believe that as a coach. You know, I feel like I can take a player like Race, who everybody said can't make threes, can't bring the ball up the floor and make plays. Well, it's my job and your job as a coach on my staff to get him to do that. That's what we do as coaches. And I think that's the biggest challenge. My coaches, when I sat with them, they were like, this dude's different. I am different because I think out of the box. And I want players to think out of the box. I don't want to pigeonhole you and say, you can't do this and do that. So to answer your question, with Race and Trace, even Trace, he's handling the ball even more. Now, until they prove me wrong, you know, I can always scale back. But Race has got to be able to make shots out on the floor and feel good about it, shooting the ball. And I thought in the Bahamas he took a few threes. I think he made one or two out there, and he's made them in the scrimmage. He's made basketball plays in the open court, handling the basketball, things that the coaches thought he could never do. But again, that's a sign of work and trust and putting him in the best position possible to be able to do that.